Hello everybody. Thanks again for visiting my YouTube channel. This is the place where we discuss the Lord's Recovery Movement of Witness Lee, also known as the local church movement. Well, still on shepherdingwords.com, there are a couple articles I want to combine into this episode, and one is about Ron Kangas's speaking and the other is about concerning turmoils. Ron Kangas is speaking in a conference in July of 2019 caused some turmoil because of some things he said about his wife. People took objection to it. There were some raised eyebrows about it, and let me quote what he said. He's talking about being a coworker and that the fact that he's a coworker does not extend any kind of authority to his wife. He said, "I am so thankful I have my companion, my wife, to travel with me wherever I go. But I am the coworker. I am the one ministering. She is nothing. She is no one. She is just my wife. I will never crown her. I will never exalt her. To do so would be to damage her." Now, the way people took it is he was just saying, my wife's nobody. My wife's nothing. It sounded a little disrespectful. I think anybody could understand why anybody would think that initially. They explained it to say what he's saying is just because somebody has a position in the church does not mean that their spouse has a position as well. And I think most people understand that idea. I don't think that directly one can take from this statement that Ron was demeaning women or demeaning his wife directly. I do think that one could say, couldn't he have chosen his words better? I am pretty sure that Ron Kangas' wife was not thrilled by his choice of words. If I know anything about women, they usually don't like it someone says they are nothing, especially their husband. He not only said she is nothing, he said she is no one. She is just my wife. And the problem again with shepherdingwords.com is they never admit any kind of mistake or wrongdoing on their part. It's all keeping this shield up to where they can't admit any weakness or any kind of mistake directly that they did or that anybody who's with them does. Why couldn't they have written, admittedly, Ron could have chosen his words better? Wouldn't that have been an appropriate thing to say here? Instead of acting like anybody who responds wrongly to what he said, it's their fault. It's not his fault. It's not his choice of words. And this has happened before with Ron. He tends to shoot his mouth off. He's the one that called Witness Lee the acting God. He's the one that accused John Ingalls of being obsessed simply because John's conscience bothered him about them letting Philip Lee run around abusing local church women sexually. And he's the one that called Steve Isaac a man of death. Okay, he tends to do this. He tends to shoot his mouth off and stick his foot in his mouth and get himself in trouble. And now these guys, once again, have got the fire extinguishers out trying to cover this, and instead of just saying he could have chosen his words better, admittedly, they act like anybody who has a problem with him is just evil. This is part of the problem with him, and it points to their problem, that they have this attitude that they can do no wrong, or at least they never have to admit any wrongdoing. They'll admit generally we're not perfect, but they won't admit to any specific wrongdoing. This is characteristic of them. They're not showing humility is the problem. There's no humility with them. There's no true humility. True humility is self-effacing. It has this ability to laugh at oneself, and they have neither. They are so serious about themselves. It's like, we are the co-worker. I'm the co-worker. So that's problematic. I can't comment on Ron's relationship with his wife. I don't think that's appropriate for me to do. But as far as the Lord's Recovery having a demeaning attitude toward women, let me just say this. As long as they do not fess up to Philip Lee's shenanigans and the stuff he did and the other sexual abuses they've buried, they are demeaning to women. Their whole operation is an insult to women in general and specifically women in the Lord's Recovery. As long as they try to cover this up, as long as there's women out there that they've tried to hush up and bury and move out of town and not listen to and not respect and treat like nuts and sluts and shut them up, who have been sexually abused by their leaders, particularly the son of their founder, Witness Lee, then they are demeaning to women. Now, I know I've said in the past that I didn't think they were demeaning to women, But I'm talking about the way they behaved when I was there. I did not see a standing attitude that demeaned women. I knew there was a order where women were expected to submit to men, but I sensed a kind of definite respect for women. But I will say, since then, and since these scandals have come out and they've done nothing about them, and not only that, after the scandal with Philip Lee happened, they welcomed him back with open arms and apologized to him publicly for all the trouble they've caused him by actually getting concerned about the fact that he was molesting women. And add to that the fact that they came out with this shepherdingwords.com website, which ostensibly and hopefully was going to give some explanation about some of these questions. They've decided to have the siege mentality and deny everything. That's demeaning. That's insulting to all the women and everybody else who's been abused by this group. If you were a woman, would you want to be in a movement with that kind of track record? Oh, if one of the higher ups molests you, we're going to hush you up and move you out of town, but we're going to put out public apologies to the guy that did it to you. That's not demeaning to women? Give me a break. This is the kind of thing you're dealing with here. These guys are as phony as the day is long when it comes to this stuff. So what does this all come from? And this gets into the thing about turmoils. What caused turmoils? Talking about the turmoils. Why so many turmoils in the Lord's recovery? And they act like, well, people do not see God's economy. They do not see the oneness of the body. The problem always comes from their overbearing, lording authority. When they tell people, if you leave the Lord's recovery, you're leaving God's best, that is lording. When they tell people, we're the Lord's recovery and we're the best thing going, they are lording. Okay, there is no Lord's recovery. It's something they made up. It's a fantasy. And they're using that. They actually use 3 fantasies to hold people there. The idea of the local ground, which has some biblical basis, but it falls apart upon analysis and historical observation and common sense. But then you talk about the minister of the age and the idea of the Lord's recovery. Those 2 things are entirely, completely unfounded in the Bible. The Bible doesn't talk about any kind of Lord's recovery, any kind of special movement in the church, special privilege, special status. You got to be in this. It does not talk about that. It's just another way of saying we're the best group around. The same thing that groups down through history have done. We're the best. Mormons are the best. Jehovah's Witnesses are the best. Seventh-day Adventists are the best. Catholics are the best. People in the local church are the best. Same thing. It's not any different. And then the idea of the minister of the age is completely non-biblical. Look at the way Paul acted as an apostle. If you could say anybody was the lead apostle in the New Testament age, the first century, it was him. And he did not have that attitude. He even knew there were other apostles that he didn't think much of, and he never said, these guys are opposers. Stay away from them. They're evildoers. They're not one with the one true flow from the throne, which is me. You know, that stuff is foreign to the New Testament, okay? God does not give us the right to say things like that. To say, if you're not with us, you're not with God the way you should be. That is not biblical. And these guys have been doing it so long, they can't see straight. And so the cause of the turmoils in the Lord's recovery, it's that. That's the cause. People chafe against it, and then they get slapped down, and it causes trouble. That's what happened with John Ingalls. That's what happened with Max Rappaport. That's what happened in the Midwest 10 years ago when they slapped down Titus Chew. They tried to take over churches in the Midwest, and they sent in all kind of operatives into those churches to be dissenters. They basically just took over in Columbus and made their own church and, had a great meeting. We are the church in Columbus. These other guys are no longer the church in Columbus. Why? Because we say so. I mean, this is the stuff they do. And they go, this is the cause of turmoils. People don't know the body. Speaking of the body, they were talking about this thing of this. Some brother wanted to appoint sisters to be elders in churches. And it caused some problems with them, and they had to deal with it. They said, God cut this cancer out of the body. Okay, that was the words. Let me read it, specifically what it said. The husband may give in to such a usurping wife. He may even take the lead to rebel. In 1974, the church in Anaheim was established, and a certain man who is now with the Lord wanted there to be leading sisters. Brother Lee did not agree. However, this brother appointed 3 anyway, including his wife. They and the women who followed caused some of the most painful and traumatic suffering that we have ever experienced. They don't get specific about what that was, but they go on to say, eventually, Brother Lee said, "This is a cancer." They rejected Brother Lee's fellowship, but the Lord cut that cancer out of the body. The Lord did. Out of the body, they say. It didn't say that we got him out of the church in Anaheim. It said they got it out of the body. Now, are they saying that those Christians that they're talking about there, that they ran off, they're no longer in the body of Christ? Is that what they're saying? They're saying that the church in Anaheim is the body of Christ? And if you leave the church in Anaheim, you're kicked out, you're out of the body. Those people for the rest of their life were not in the body of Christ? Is that what they're saying? This is the kind of attitude they have. Cut that cancer out of the body. What they're doing is they're equating their movement with the body of Christ. I'm sure those people went on and continued their Christian life and found their place. I would rather have sisters be leaders than for somebody to be going around saying that they're a cancer and they cut them out of the body. This is fantasy. The Lord did it. The Lord did it. The Lord cut them out of the body. Out of the body. Okay? Didn't ask them to leave our movement. The Lord cut them out of the body. Anybody believe those people were no longer in the body of Christ because Witness Lee ran them off? Anybody believe that? This is the kind of thing they do. This is a really good example of their attitude. And they can't hide it. And this is the cause of their turmoils, is this attitude. Now, I understand that if their rules are they don't want women to be elders, they have the right to have that policy. And those women and that husband have the right to say, okay, we'll just leave in peace. And the Lord's Recovery had the right to say, we think that's best. And then that'd be the end of it, and people could go on with their lives. But no, that's not good enough for the Lord's Recovery. They have to be cutting a cancer out of the body. You see what I'm saying? Can't just be, we disagree, let's agree to disagree, and let's go our separate ways, which actually is what Paul and Barnabas did. No, they have to be the winners, and everybody else has to be the loser. They have to be the good guys, and everybody else has to be the bad guys. And that is the cause of all their turmoils they've ever had, is that they have to protect their authority and their image so much, and they are so insecure that they got to blow everybody up that gets in their way. And that's their problem. Until they figure that out, they're going to have turmoils. And they can go around and around blaming everybody they want to, and the rest of us, it's like watching a train wreck. Oh my gosh. How long is this going to go on? It's like a 70-year train wreck. It's just the cars just keep piling up on each other. And these guys can't figure it out. You know why? Because they're on cruise control. All they can do is just say, Witness Lee said it, Watchman Nee said it, so we got to do it. We can't think for ourselves. We can't come up with anything new. We can't improve. We can't be the recovery. We can't recover anything else. Because Witness Lee told us there's nothing else to recover. Isn't that insane? Isn't that totally insane? But that's what they do. So, again, I could go on, but you get the idea, I think. Again, want to wish you guys happy holidays, Merry Christmas. If I don't see you before the new year, Happy New Year. But there's a couple of more shepherdingwords.com articles to comment on, so you probably will. So, you guys take care and have a great Christmas.